All right, welcome to lesson 2.4.3, area and perimeter of polygons. Let's start off with a definition. So a composite figure is, well, won't let me write. Okay, give me a second. A composite figure is a figure or shape made out of basic shapes like triangles, squares, rectangles, etc. Let me just draw you a quick example of a composite figure. I'm going to draw a house, the most basic house. This is the most basic house, and it is a composite figure because it's made up of a triangle, as you can see on the top, and a square, as you can see on the bottom. So even if I shaded it in, I guess now it looks less like a house and more like an arrow. But even if I shaded this in, it is still a composite figure. Even though you can't see the dividing line anymore, you can still know that it is made up of a triangle and a square, and this is a composite figure. I can put more shapes in here. I can have a circle in here. I can have another rectangle. Let's just add a little rectangle over here. This is still a composite figure because now I've just added another shape to it. So a composite figure is a shape made out of basic shapes such as triangles, squares, rectangles, etc. Okay, so let's scroll down to part A. Part A says determine the perimeter of each given parallelogram on the coordinate plane. Round your answer to the nearest hundredths if necessary. Okay, so we are going to find the length of each of these sides so that we can calculate the perimeter of this parallelogram. So let's figure out this point. This is -4, -2. This point is 4, 2. This point is 6, 0. This point is -2, -4. Okay, so we got all 4 of our points labeled. And then remember that we can use the distance formula to calculate the length of each side. So let's try doing this side first, NO. So NO, looks like no, but the distance from N to O is that highlighted purple section. And remember, we can use the distance formula, so D is equal to square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And we're going to square root that. So just in case you guys didn't already realize it, the distance formula is essentially that whole a squared plus b squared equals c squared formula, where c squared is the diagonal line, the length of the diagonal line of a right triangle. Oops, that's a really ugly triangle. Oh my gosh, okay. That's not much prettier, but here's a right triangle where this is your right angle. If you have A and B being the two perpendicular legs, then C is just going to be the hypotenuse. So I'm sure you guys have heard of this before, but the distance formula is essentially that. And I guess I will show you how they are the same thing today during class. Okay, so for NO, let's use the points -4, -2, and 4, 2, because that's N and O. So if we are calculating our x2 minus x1, remember that this is your first point, so that is your x1. This is your second point, so that's your x2. So x2 minus x1 is 4 minus -4. And then the y2 minus y1, remember this is your y1 and your y2. So 2 minus -2. So I plugged it into the formula so far. 4 minus -4, remember when you subtract a negative, that is the same thing as adding the positive. So this is really 4 plus 4, which gives me 8 squared plus 2 minus -2. So same idea, 2 plus 2 gives me 4 squared. Okay, so here's where this relates to the right triangle. So if I were to draw a triangle with this diagonal line, I would connect it like that. Here would be my right angle, and we would be looking for the hypotenuse of our right triangle. So that line that I just drew in over there. So where does the 8 and 4 come in? The 8 comes over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is the length of that side. And what about the 4? Where does the 4 come in? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is the length of this side of the triangle. So really, we have 8 squared plus 4 squared. That's your a squared plus b squared. And c in the equation is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. Because a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if you just want c by itself, c is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared. That's literally the same thing as right over here. The length of the NO line segment is equal to the square root of the size of those triangles. So 8 squared minus 4 squared. That's literally what we get when we subtract our x2 minus x1 and what we get when we subtract our y2 minus y1. So now that you can see it's the same thing, I don't know which way works better for you. Some people like the formula, some people like drawing the triangle. It's up to you. So I'm just going to continue it from here. We have the square root of 8 squared is 64, 4 squared is 16. And then what is 64 plus 16? 80. And then I believe we want it as a decimal, right? Yeah, rounding our answer to the nearest hundredth. So we will want the square root of this to the nearest hundredth will be 8.94427. That becomes 8.94. So this is the length of that purple line. I will write it in. Oops, why does it look like that? 8.94 is the length of this line. And in a parallelogram, the other side is going to be the same length. We don't have to do it again. This is also 8.94. Okay. So I don't know if you guys like the distance formula better or if you like the, this is called the Pythagorean theorem. I don't know if you like the Pythagorean theorem better, but since I did the distance formula for the first one, let's use the Pythagorean theorem for the second one. The second side, let's do this one. So we can draw a triangle here. Oops. There we go. That's our right triangle. And we can count the side lengths. It looks like a 2 and a 2. So knowing that we have this little 2, 2 right triangle, we can calculate the length of NS. All right, so NS, that length is equal to, let's use this formula, the square root of a squared plus b squared. So NS is equal to square root of, we can call that a, we can call that b. So 2 squared plus 2 squared. A and b are both 2, so it doesn't matter. So this would be 2 squared is 4. 2 squared is also 4. So we have square root of 4 plus 4. So the square root of 8. And then using my calculator, because I don't know what that is off the top of my head. 8 square rooted is 2.828. We're going to round it, so 2.83. All right, so 2.83. So that means both, well, I don't know why I keep it. Okay, this side and this side, those little short sides, they're both 2.83. So finally, to calculate the perimeter, all you have to do is add up the 4 sides. We have 8.94 plus 8.94 plus, what was it, 2.83 plus 2.83 equals, and calculator again, 23.54. Final answer. So the perimeter of this parallelogram is 23.54. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to call me over into your breakout room. If not, let's try the next one. I can have you guys try this one on your own. So pause the video here and try to find the perimeter of parallelogram MATH. Pause the video. All right, so now that we're unpaused, we're gonna try to calculate the perimeter of this one. So let's label all 4 points. Okay, so actually, if you take a look at each of these boxes, they're not worth 1. So if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes is worth 50, then each of these boxes is worth 10. So this one becomes negative 60, 60. This one is negative 20, 60. This one is 20, negative 20. This one is negative 20, negative 20. All right, so I know we've done distance formulas so many times, you don't need to see me do it again. So I'm going to do this in the Pythagorean theorem method, which is right over here with this formula. And I'm going to do that by drawing a right triangle. And to do that, I'm going to draw it straight down and straight across. Sorry, that was such a messy looking line, but it's okay. So here's my right triangle. And I can count the number of boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. That means this side is 40 long. What about this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 boxes. So that means this is 80 long. Okay, so I'm just going to draw that triangle over here. Well, I love when I try to write and it doesn't write. Okay, 80 and 40. And we're going to try to find the length of MH. Okay, so MH. So we're going to use the square root of a squared plus b squared. Okay, so which one's a and b? It really doesn't matter. You can have a and b like this, or you can have a and b like this. It doesn't matter because once you add it together, it doesn't matter what order you add it in. 1 plus 2 is the same thing as 2 plus 1. So it doesn't matter which one your a is and which one your b is, as long as you know that your hypotenuse is the side for c. Okay, so in this case, we have 40 squared plus 80 squared. And I'm going to use my calculator. So 40 times 40 is 1,600. 80 times 80 is 6,400. And then if you add it together, you get, I believe, 8,000, but I'm just going to double check. Yes, 8,000. And then we're going to square root that. And that would give us 89.4427, which when we round it to the nearest hundredths is 89.44. Remember, the 2 is a small number, so you keep the 4 as a 4. Okay, so 89.44. All right, let me box that. And let me write that over here. That these 2 slanted lines are 89.44. Now, what about the blue lines, these lines? Well, luckily for us, they lie flat on the axes, so we can actually just count these boxes. We don't have to use another triangle or another distance formula. We can, but we don't have to. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes long. Remember, each box is worth 10. So this is 40, and this is 40. Because on a parallelogram, the opposite side is the same length anyways. All right, so now we can have our calculations for perimeter. Add up all 4 sides. So 89.44 plus 89.44 plus 40 plus 40. And on my calculator, I added it up, and I got 258.88. All right, and that is our final answer. So hopefully you got the same thing. If you rounded it slightly differently, that's okay. Because if you didn't round until the very end, you might have gotten 258.89, which is totally okay. On my calculator, on my phone, that's what it says because I took the unrounded answer, which is this thingy, and then I added it to itself, and I added 40 and 40. So I got 258.89 on my phone. But if you rounded it here and then added it together, you would get 258.88, and that's totally fine. Both answers I will accept. Okay, so if you have any questions on this category, let me know. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.